and welcome to this week's edition of the Eagle Sports Update. I'm your host, Jillian Seach, and here in studio, I have Derek Maselli and Al Willman with me. We'll start on the diamond, where the EMU baseball team dropped both games of a doubleheader to Wright State University in the second day of the Flyer Classic, hosted by the University of Dayton. The Eagles fell 14-0 in Game 1. They were able to scatter 7 hits, but left 2 8-men on. Augie Gallardo took the loss, going 2 1/3 innings and giving up 9 runs, while striking out only 2 and walking a batter. Game 2 wasn't nearly as lopsided, but the result was the same as Eastern lost 7-5. Mitch McGeehan went 2 for 4 with a double and an RBI. Tyler Butson got the start for EMU, going 6 strong innings and only allowing a pair of earned runs and striking out 4. The Eagles dropped to 4-11 and will wrap up their time in Dayton with a game against the Flyers on Wednesday. First pitch is set for 6 p.m. All right, guys, so that's not obviously the tournament we want to see.
No, it's not. But, over the last couple of years, Eastern has gotten off to a slow start before. And that seems to be kind of the way things go. I don't want to say, well, that's just how it's always been and that's how it's always going to be, because
Right.
that it shouldn't be. But I'm not surprised to see it. It's the second year of a new coach. They're still working out the kinks, kind of like we talked about, a little earlier.
Yes.
So it's growing pains, I think, still. Butson, but look at him, pitcher, 6 strong innings, Game 2, got the win. He's a freshman freshman left-hander out of Taylor Kennedy High School. And I think he's got a lot to come into a rotation that's had, its ups and downs in the past. But I think, they're getting where they need to be.
Okay, so maybe
Sure.
just growing pains are kind of the issue
too,
right now?
and oftentimes you face more formidable competition or very formidable competition at the beginning of the season, and it's to be expected that you're not going to come away with wins for all of them. Do I think that there were situations where they probably should have won games with lack of run support to really close things out? Or again, you talk about depth as far as pitching goes. Yeah, those are issues, but again, we're in year 2 of a new regime now, and so I also agree with Al on this, growing pains.
Okay. Do you think, are they going to finish the season strong? Can you predict that far, or is that...
At this point, it's hard to say.
Yeah.
Okay.
They got off to a pretty slow start last year, too. They ended up contending pretty well down the stretch.
Yeah.
There's a long season, especially in college baseball. It's a long year. Anything can happen. So.
All right. Well, we're just going to have to wait and see then, I guess. All right.
So.
Okay, so on to basketball now. The end of last was rough for both the men's and the women's basketball teams, which were eliminated from their respective conference tournaments last week. The 8th-seeded men's team fell in the quarterfinals to the number 1-seeded Akron Zips in what can only be described as a heartbreaking loss. The Eagles for almost the entirety of the game, but could not hang on as Akron regained the lead with under 30 seconds to play. Raven Lee put forth one final attempt to tie things up, but failed as the Zips won 65-63. The men close out their season with a record of 18 wins and 15 losses. The women's team entered the MAC as a 6th seed and was able to advance to the semifinals, where they were bested by the number 2-seeded Central Michigan Chippewas. The Eagles led at the half, but could not keep pace with the Central offensively in the second half, as they were outscored 49-30. The result was an 81-76 loss and a disappointing exit from the MAC tournament. They did, however, earn a trip to the Wint, where they will play St. Mary's College University about an hour outside of San Francisco. The game is set for Thursday. So, guys.
Yep. Well,
Yes.
I was wrong. I picked the women's basketball team to win the MAC, and they didn't do that.
You weren't
Yeah.
the only one, though, Al. I suppose we'll start with the women's team, since that's the most recent news. Yeah, there were several analysts that actually had Eastern Michigan contending for that MAC championship, and not so much as contending and reaching that championship game, but winning the MAC. And I think the whole team it obviously is disappointed in this as well. There was a lot of build-up to this season, the whole unfinished business thing, and they still had a decent season overall. And, you would have liked to see them have higher than a 6th seed going in, but they went toe-to-toe with one of the tougher teams in the MAC West. And I think they did all right. They led for a while and just couldn't keep pace with a team that was shooting very well from beyond the arc. And so now they're looking forward. They have a chance almost for redemption here, as once again, I think they were a little lucky to get in, but the women's NIT is now a chance for them to redeem themselves, I think.
I think you're right. I think so. And I think looking at the opposite, I don't know much about St. Mary's. I really don't. But looking at it as a trip to the West Coast, which can be
Sure.
Good or bad, depending on how the team adjusts and gets in and gets settled. They could be really, really tired after the travel, or they can be set in and ready to rumble. And so I think it's one of those games that can go either way.
Yeah, and this team is better than its record indicates. They've had some real tough, real close, heartbreaking losses. But I don't believe that will define them. And I think they'll have another good, healthy run in the NIT, just as they did last time around.
Yeah, and I think, too, if you look at both men's and women's, which I'm sure we're going to talk about here in a minute.
Sure.
Buffalo had a really good year on both sides of that basketball. Both the men's team and the women's team, which both won the MAC. They just played out of their minds in the tournament. And so I don't think there was anybody else going to beat them.
Yeah. And so now let's talk about the men's now. They entered the tournament as an 8 seed, so not as well. And they did finish the conference one game stronger than last year. Last year they finished 8-10. They were 9-9 this time, good enough for an 8 seed in this case. And they defeated Toledo at home in the first round. From what I hear, there was a great student showing at the game, which is good. Yep. It might show that things are finally starting to sway towards more student interest in the athletic programs here, and especially the basketball ones, as they've been relatively successful from this for the last few years now. So we're looking at year 5 of Rob Murphy's regime, and unfortunately, it doesn't look like there are going to be any postseason tournaments really,
I think we'd have heard about
the
it by
men's
now.
team. And so now it's a question of where do they go from here? They're hanging out at roughly around a 500 record in conference play. They have, for the last, 3 or 4 years now, I believe, they've had winning non-conference records and just winning, very decisive winning records. But there's been some criticism about the quality of competition and different things that have come up. So I guess my question is, what happens now?
And I think for me, as I understand it, and I was kind of doing some research about this before the show, there was a clause in Rob Murphy's contract that automatically renews for a year if he wins 20 games.
Okay.
Which he's done.
They're at, what was it?
I think 21 or 22 this year. Overall.
Okay, I thought it was 18.
No, I'm pretty sure it was over 20.
Okay.
But anyway. We'll double check later, and I'm sure I'll be tweeting about this. But he's already got renewed actually last year for another year, so it doesn't matter. He's got one more year, as I understand it, left on his deal. But the problem is they've plateaued, and I've said this before. I'm consistent saying this now. They're not going higher with 5 different makeups of 5 different teams. They can't get over the hump, and that's on the coaching, I think.
And that's too. It's a coaching philosophy almost. You can bring in a lot of talent with transfers, and a lot of teams do it. However, one of the critiques of Murphy's teams has been, well, if you keep bringing in transfers, how much chemistry can the team really build? Thompson, though, is looking pretty good, and he's just a freshman.
Yeah,
so.
well, freshman of the year, yeah.
Yes.
So I guess we'll see what happens, in the next few months. I don't see them, getting rid of Rob Murphy as much as some folks might want them to. But yeah, I guess we're in the off season, so we'll see what happens in the next couple months.
Just kind of looking for some improvement then, I guess.
Sure. Yeah.
All right. Now on to the golf teams. The EMU women's golf team participated in the 3M Junior Augusta Invitational over the weekend, finishing 14th as a team. Kelsey Murphy led the way for the Eagles, shooting a 3-day total of 216, taking 9th place. Behind her was Karen Lee Ping, who shot a 230 for the tournament. The Eagles are off until March 28th when they played the Kingsmill Intercollegiate in Williamsburg, Virginia. So guys, what do you think of the golf team this season?
It's pretty early on, but looking at it, 9th place finish for the top golfer, that's a good showing. out of the gates, finishing 14th as a team in a pretty decent-sized field. That's pretty respectable too. And then a lot of Eagles were checkered throughout the leaderboard throughout the weekend. So I think there's a lot to show for it at this point. But again, it's early in the year, so we'll see what happens from there.
I think both golf teams are actually pretty solid, and they were last year as well. And so these are two programs that I think are really on their way to becoming pretty good.
All right, so a lot to look forward to with these teams.
Yeah,
Either
yeah.
looking for improvement or, just seeing how the season progresses for them. All right, now on to the tennis squad. The tennis squad was able to halt a 7-match losing streak on Saturday. Then they thrashed the Oakland University Golden Grizzlies 6-1. At the number 1 double spot, Ani Gagdovaz and Marie Mayarova routed Tamara Bloom and Karine Salis 6-1. Meanwhile, Andrea Martinovska and Anna Velva swiftly defeated Daria Artemanova and Sosa Berkoka. Sorry. 6-1. At the number 3 doubles, Alejandra Barcelo Almonia and Renu Sharma bested Maxine Cohen and Juliana Goerva 6-3. In singles play, Eastern took 5 of 6 matches. This is the second time Eastern has defeated Oakland this season. However, Klara Supova was sidelined for the afternoon. With the win, the Eagles improved to 3-10, and they'll host Akron on Friday, March 25th at the Claudia Wasik Tennis Complex, located on West Campus near the Bubble. The match is set to begin at 1 p.m.
Well, it looks good for Eastern beating Oakland for the second time this year without their top athlete.
Decisively as well.
Yeah.
6-1 is great. And it's good to see them stop that losing streak, because it was rough there for a while. And again, this is another team that's in the process of building, and they're doing pretty well as far as I'm concerned. This is a team that I think gets better every year, and so I look for them to continue getting better.
Well, and this is one of those teams too, like we've talked about in the past, that you almost never hear about.
Right.
This team, either the golf teams,
Right.
They're
And the
underrated
programs on the
teams.
rise, people.
Yep.
They're ones that you should be following. And now that we're getting into the spring season, there'll be outdoor tennis at the new facility is right over by Rynearson Stadium on West Campus. So it's right over there. You should go. You should check it out. They're
Support our
worth a watch.
Eagles.
They're very good. Yes.
Yep.
Alrighty, now we're going to go and talk about the softball team. The softball team split a pair of games with Morehead State over the weekend. First, freshman Nicole Miranda and company lost 13-5. Eastern trailed 7-2 after 3 innings of play, but managed to cut the deficit to 2 entering the 6th inning. Morehead State, however, would score the last 6 runs of the game. The second time around, this time with Abby Minsker on the mound, Eastern emerged victorious. Amanda Ackles blasted a 2-run homer in the first inning, and the team never looked back. After 3 innings, they led 6-3. Morehead State tacked on 2 more runs in the 5th to make things interesting. Then in the 7th, Abby Davidson and Maddie Holster provided a pair of runs to extend the EMU lead to 3. Minsker hung on, going the distance in the 8-5 win. With the win, she improves to 2-2 this season, and the team jumps to 7-11. The Eagles will face perennial powerhouse, number 2 ranked University of Michigan. The first pitch was thrown just as we went to air, but we'll have the score and analysis of that game next week.
Well, again, like we talked about before, the softball team, like the baseball team, has this habit of getting off to a slow start. Again, they play in tournaments over the early half of the year that puts them against big teams down in Florida or down in Texas that you don't expect them to win, and but it helps them grow.
Shocking. Yeah.
Right, but it helps them grow as a team. If they can go toe to toe with these bigger teams, once the conference season rolls around, like with any sport, you'll have that level of competition that you've played up to already.
Well, that and just the additional conditioning that comes along with all the traveling
absolutely.
that you have to endure.
Yeah, and in the game I'm really paying a lot of attention to is the game, like I said, it just went on against Michigan. You've got Michigan who competes nationally every single year, making it to the Women's College World Series. So no matter how this game ends up, whether it's a win or a loss, I really expect the team to really build a lot off of that game.
Okay. Are there any specific things that you look for the team to improve on?
Pitching. Pitching's been a concern of mine for the last couple of years. They have a young pitching staff.
Right.
I think their top pitcher right now is a junior, or sophomore, excuse me. So there's a lot to build off of from that.
All right. So again, just like with the other teams we kind of talked about, just growing pains and, room for
exactly.
improvement.
And many
so.
teams struggle with finding solid pitching
Right.
rotations. It's not uncommon, especially for new programs, growing programs, again, ones that are trying to find their way.
Right. And I mean, it's hard to critique at the beginning of the season, too, and
Sure.
kind of predict. So.
Certainly.
All right. Well, we'll wrap up this week's news with some congratulations. Anthony Jones, a redshirt junior on the EMU men's track and field team, and a previous guest on our show, was named an All-American over the weekend, finishing 7th in the weight throw at the NCAA Indoor Championships with a throw of 70 feet, 7.25 inches. Willie Fink, also a redshirt junior, finished 11th in the 3,000-meter run with a time of 8 minutes, 7.881 seconds. He earned second-team All-American honors. Congratulations, guys. And we'll be right back to talk about what else? March Madness. Stay tuned.
How are we even on time?
We are true EMU.
I am true EMU.
We are true EMU.
All right, well, we're
Here we
back.
go, yeah.
Yeah, that's quick. So it's that time of year, the time that everybody pays attention to, March
Oh,
Madness.
yes.
The time,
or even if you're not a fan of basketball, you
Oh,
know
everyone
what's
tunes
going
in.
on.
that's
Yes.
a lot, what I say is college basketball doesn't really start until March Madness. So, for all intents and purposes, but
I disagree.
Well,
That's okay.
okay.
All right.
That's okay.
I know, I think the big story about March Madness this year is the leak of the brackets. As CBS was on the air doing their selection show. But I think, that's weird. And NCAA, they're saying they're going to come down on whoever leaked the brackets, and
Oh,
they can't
yes.
figure out, whether a student athlete's a student, an athlete, or a product. So, anyway, a couple, quick minutes to talk about maybe two teams that, are going to be hopefully doing pretty well in the March Madness. Michigan State, I think they're number 2 seed,
They are a
Number
2
2
seed,
seed.
yes.
Yep.
and they should be number 1. I think.
They'll be playing Middle Tennessee
Yep. So
State, I believe.
I expect them to go pretty far in the tournament. Actually, they're my pick to win the tournament this year.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I picked the number 2 to go all the way this year. So, and with that going, what do you think?
Well, it's tough because people look at the Big Ten, and the Big Ten is a solid conference, but people don't look to the Big Ten as necessarily the premier basketball conference. So it's no surprise to me that they lose out on a number 1 spot to, say, Virginia or North Carolina, again, playing in the ACC. The Atlantic Coastal Conference is much, I think, has been historically considered the better basketball conference, and Kansas has dominated as well. So I'm not terribly surprised about that.
Nope. And then another team, we got one that's nearby and one, playing with somewhat local EMU ties, Michigan and Tulsa in a playing game. Obviously, Michigan down the street, former Tulsa athletic director, current Tulsa athletic director Derek Gregg, Eastern's former AD, in a game that could probably go either way.
We'll see.
I know. I'm curious to see that one.
I've got
personally.
Michigan beating Tennessee, or beating Tulsa. Wow, I'm all over the place. Right? Michigan beating Tulsa. But again, it could go any way. Always remember, there's always one upset. So
Always one upset.
Yep. So thanks for watching. That's all the time we have for today. I'm Al. That's Jillian. That's Derek.
You stay classy, Ypsilanti.
Bye.